Welcome to the Baklava broadcast, brought to you by Semih-Pro. Riding the pine since '99.
Welcome, everyone, to the third Baklava broadcast. I am here on a Friday night recording with the same crew we had last week with Kurt Russell joining us from Houston. How you doing, Kurt?
Good. How's it going, John?
Pretty well. We are also joined by Rahul. Rahul, what's up, man?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
So, with this being, the Baklava broadcast, I guess we gotta, talk about our, affection and, dedication to Baklava itself. So, do you guys have any thoughts about Baklava? What intrigues you about it? It's so tantalizing. It's so good. What are your guys' thoughts on Baklava? What comes to mind?
I'm just impressed by it. I mean, there's just, there's so many layers. Like, you can have, one layer on cake, maybe two. But, Baklava can go for, 4 or 5 layers, right? That's impressive. It's all in the phyllo dough, I think. That's the secret. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the phyllo, yeah. That's so unique, and it's rich. It's also sweet, It's got the nuts, but it also has, it's held together by that, you either have a syrup or a honey, and it's it's a complete dessert.
Yeah, a little bit of syrup on these nuts. I like that. Yikes. I think that's enough to talk about Baklava on this basketball broadcast. So what do you guys want to talk about today?
I guess we can start this past week. The Cleveland Cavaliers, have made some significant moves with the trades of Dion Waiters and then also getting Timothy Mozgov in a trade. So, Kurt, just, what do you think about these trades? What do you think it means going forward? What are your initial reactions to these trades?
Well, first of all, you forgot to mention 2 pretty important players that we also had to part with, Alex Burke and Louis Amundsen, whose presence they'll be dearly missed on the bench. Not easily replaced for sure. I've heard they were excellent cheerleaders. But as far as parting with Dion, first off, the more I think about it, the more I like it, just because I think we're parting with a frustrated Dion who, for whatever reason, thinks he's better than Kyrie. And there's always going to be a clash between those two, I think. And for trading him, in return, we essentially got an older version of Dion who, is going to have those nights where you're going to be like, this is why I traded for this guy. And J.R. Smith, there'll be several nights where he drops 20-plus on efficient shooting, and he's just hot and can't be stopped and carries the team for the second unit. And alongside that, so basically we replaced Dion with an older version of him who's motivated to play and still won't play defense, but that's okay. And then we get Shumpert, who the only knock on him that I have is his injury trouble, which he's missed a lot of games over the course of his career, in his young career. But when he's healthy, that will be a major, major upgrade on the defensive wing. And he's also pretty serviceable on offense as well. And as far as Mozgov's concerned, we needed a big, and the Nuggies, I should say, and they kind of had us on the ropes, and that's why we kind of had to overpay for him with 2 first-round picks, but at least we filled a necessary void on our team.
Yeah, I agree with your statements there. The Waiters trade happened a few days before the Mozgov trade. And, when the Waiters trade happened, I really, probably out of, all of us, I was probably the least excited about it because I felt like we traded our only trade asset that and didn't get our center back in return. What we really needed, a big man, and that's why I was frustrated because I thought that Shumpert was a good fit, but we didn't fill the void. So after that Mozgov trade happened, it was a pretty steep price, but that made me a lot happier with the Waiters trade. We ended up getting our big man, and 2 picks is probably too much for Mozgov, but there's this picture circulating, actually. Mozgov just took his physical for the Cavs today, and he was running on the treadmill, and they had to remove one of the ceiling tiles because he was too tall for the room. So coming from a team with Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson, who aren't really, true big men, true centers, that was nice to see. So on the whole, I'm pretty happy with what happened. So we'll see how it plays out. I think the Cavs definitely got better.
Yeah, I mean, just to echo your guys' thoughts there. I felt with first of all with the Dion trade, they got a good return for Dion. I feel Dion he just wasn't a great fit in Cleveland, and he didn't knock down the open threes, and even when he tried, he didn't defend well. And so in return, you get Shumpert and Smith, and I think Shumpert is a good 3, and he's the wing defender we need. He's got the length and athleticism to guard multiple positions, which helps. And he can hit the 3 at a decent rate. And then you have J.R. Smith, who's a veteran in this league, and he helps with the scoring off the bench, obviously. And then he can catch fire, so that helps come playoff time as well. And then when I look at the Mozgov trade, he was one of the best available centers, I feel, in terms of who was available and at what price. Rahul, you talked about, it is a steep price for Mozgov, those two first rounders, but I feel we had to make a trade for a big man, and just looking at some of his YouTube clips and everything, and how he's played with Denver this past year or so, I feel he moves fairly well, and he can guard in space. And some of the advanced statistics may have not have favored him as much. Like, I just saw a tweet from ESPN Stats and Info that said he is like among the worst in terms of giving up post-up points per game. But I mean, he's an interior presence. He's 7'1". I mean, he's got to block shots. He's got to disrupt the game flow, and he's going to make it easier on Kevin Love and the rest of the Cavs going forward. So I feel when we get healthy, when we have that big 3 back in the offense, I mean, we're one of the best offensive teams, and I think his presence on defense will go a long way in terms of helping our team, move forward to hopefully become a, league average at worst team defense. So I think, going off those trades, if we look at the Cavaliers this past week, they've had a tough week, it seems, going through this transition of, a lot of rumors floating around, a lot of trades, a lot of guys leaving here and there. If you look at this past week, we played Dallas, Philadelphia, and Houston, and we lost all 3. What do you? Which, I mean, the Philadelphia one hurts a lot. That was the night that Dion and Munson and Kirk got pulled. But I mean, it's still Philadelphia. So, Rahul, what do you think about this past week of play? What do you think about, Kevin Love's numbers in Kevin Love as well as Kyrie Irving, stepping up and committing to a bigger offensive role, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, so they were 0-4 this past week, which, obviously it sucks, but I think we talked about it last week, and we all said that we were expecting like 1-3, and we all thought they would beat Philadelphia. Philadelphia probably thought they would lose. I think Philadelphia's owner, he gave everybody at the game like a voucher for free tickets because LeBron wasn't playing. So he gave out free tickets to other games because of that. So yeah, it was obviously sucky and shocking, and I think the trades were almost a nice diversion from what was going on. I'm not too worried about it, though. I guess maybe I should be, but I'm not. Kevin Love's put up some nice numbers, and you can kind of see it's kind of like he's playing with Minnesota again. That's the feel I get. It's like I'm watching the Timberwolves from last year, especially when Kyrie was out. And then Kyrie, I think he just got to, like, once everybody gets back, figure out his role. But, as far as talent, like, what did he have in that Houston game? 38 points, something like that?
Yeah.
So,
38.
So I don't think there's any cause for concern. I'm just waiting to see how Mozgov, Shumpert, and LeBron and, the guys we have all fit in together. And the beautiful thing is, just like last week, we're still in the East. So we could lose kind of all we want, and we're still probably going to be, around the 5 or 6 seed, and then hopefully we pick it up and gain the home court. But I'm not too worried. I don't know. What do you guys think? Kurt, what do you think about it?
Yeah, it was a pretty tough past week, like we expected, with the extra salt in the wound at Philadelphia. But really, for me, I'm just hoping that with LeBron out, with a couple other players out from trades and such, that Kevin Love can just get his offense going again. I know when LeBron and Kyrie and Dion and Kevin are on the floor together, there's a lot of guys that are used to having the ball and taking a lot of shots. Some bad habits for 3 of the players, and obviously LeBron can kind of do whatever he wants because he's the best player on the planet. But it just, I don't know. For me, I'm not worried about the offense. It's going to work itself out once everyone's put in place. I'm really interested to see how the defense plays once Shumpert and LeBron are on the floor. Like Johnny said, it's great. They're going to be able to switch on pick and rolls, which is pretty important for the playoffs, and not to mention regular season, just getting things fine-tuned. But watching the game against Houston and watching Dwight Howard pull down rebound after rebound, I don't understand. I feel like the effort's not there from Love. And I know Howard's bigger than he is and whatnot, and it's a team effort to box a guy like that out.
Well, let me ask you this question. So I think, obviously Kevin Love had huge rebounding numbers in previous years. And even if they've gone down a little bit, do you think that maybe it's because he's trying a little more on defense and that he's giving up his position, and that's why he's not rebounding as much? Or do you think he's just lost a step? Or what do you think that can be attributed to?
That's a good question. In Minnesota, there wasn't really anyone that was there to grab rebounds. Like, they're Ricky Rubio, other players, like, they're just ready to get out on the break and try to score a lot of points and weren't really too concerned about rebounding. And that was kind of the knock on Kevin Love, was that he would jeopardize his team's position to try to go for rebounds that, normally that are ill-advised. But no, I don't know. The rebounding numbers don't mean a whole lot to me. What I want to see is just him putting in effort on the defensive end and boxing people out and, grinding it out, because if we're playing the Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals or semifinals or whatnot, and we have to go up against Noah and Gasol, which we're obviously going to have a huge size disadvantage like, against two gritty players like that, he's got to be ready to man up, and I'm not sure that the way he's playing right now is going to be remotely good enough for us to have a chance against a team like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good discussion on the Cavs' performance in the past week and their struggles, obviously, but also looking forward, I guess. In terms of the next week, looking forward, it's a tough slate as we take our team to the West Coast on a 5-game Western road trip here. We are tipping at Golden State in the next few minutes, actually, on ESPN. Golden State actually takes a 13-game home win streak into the game, and the Cavs are obviously on that 3-game losing streak. For the rest of the week, we are at Sacramento, at Phoenix, at Los Angeles Lakers on TNT, and then finish up the week at the Clippers on ESPN. So a full slate of Western contenders in our schedule this week. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how the Cavs contend against those teams and see if we can pull off, maybe 1 or 2 victories over this tough slate. So I guess moving along, there's also been recently in this trade discussion, actually, it's been in principle today that Jeff Green has been agreed to move to Memphis for a first-round pick and Tayshaun Prince. So I guess, Kurt, if you want to lead us off and just your initial thoughts about this and what do you think it means for Memphis moving forward? Do they is it a leap forward for them? Do they move into the top tier of the Western Conference, you think?
Well, right now they're 25-10, sitting in third place. So they're definitely up there, but I think this is a pretty solid move. At this point in Tayshaun's career, he's probably an above-average defender on the wing and a far below average, I should say, shooter on the wing, as in his three-point range is pretty limited, and even his pull-up game, that's not really a guy you want taking a wide-open shot. That's what teams are willing to concede that. And not only does Jeff Green bring a better three-point percentage than the Grizzlies' small forward play, he's just much more athletic, and mainly due to his youth, than Tayshaun Prince. And I think that's a pretty major upgrade in a spot that the Grizzlies have definitely been lacking in offensively. ESPN has a little stat comparing the Grizzlies' small forward play over the last 2 seasons to Jeff Green's numbers. Jeff Green is averaging 17.1 versus 6.5 for the Grizzlies small forward. He's about 4.5% better from the three-point line, and I think that's just going to be a major upgrade to that team that's already third in the West. I don't necessarily know if it's going to translate to more regular season wins, but come playoff time, that'll be a big pickup. Rahul, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I like Tayshaun Prince. No matter what, he's a gritty player, and he kind of fits that Grizzlies mentality. Which is surprising because if you look at him, it's like you just want to get that dude a sandwich right away because he's like like a skeleton. But yeah, if you look at the other small forwards on the Grizzlies as well, I think they have Vince Carter and Quincy Pondexter, and none of those guys they don't strike fear, or I don't know what I'm trying to say. They're Vince Carter's kind of obviously past his prime. Pondexter's, he's a nice player, but I think Jeff Green's definitely an upgrade, and Jeff Green can also play some power forward too. So
yeah,
that's pretty solid. I think Memphis was already pretty good, but I think this does make them a little bit better. It's just so hard to say in the West. I think they were going to end up top 4 regardless, and I'd say I agree that I don't know if it's going to result in more regular season wins, but come playoff time, Jeff Green will be a nice player to have. J-Rod, I don't know if you have anything to add to that. There's the Jeff Green stuff, and then I think also Brandon Wright to Phoenix happened today. So if you want to talk about either of those, J-Rod, what do you think on those?
Yeah, I definitely feel that, with the Jeff Green trade, that's a definite upgrade for the Grizzlies. Obviously, as Kurt pointed out, their small forward position was really lacking the last few, seasons offensively. And with the addition of Courtney Lee, their three-point shooting has been bolstered with that. But I feel Jeff Green, will help them come playoff time. And then as far as Brandon Wright to the Suns, I feel he's a very underrated player, and Brandon Wright could also help the Suns. They have their front court is pretty young. You have Alex Len, Miles Plumlee, and then the Morris twins. So I feel he adds another player in their rotation that's solid and can, contribute good minutes. So I feel that will help them, push through and continue to remain in that playoff picture. So I guess moving along.
Yeah, I was just gonna say they lost Channing Frye last year too. So they were definitely short a big, I guess, compared to last year. I know, Kurt, you were pretty upset that the Cavs didn't make a move for Brandon Wright. One pick's not much.
Pretty interesting. I'm not sure if we explored that trade with Boston at all, but even if we were going to get Mozgov, like Brandon Wright, he's not going to do a whole lot offensively. He's going to crash the boards hard. He's really athletic. He's great in pick and roll as far as slip screen / rolling to the rim finisher kind of guy. And, the height obviously never hurts. And if that trade was on the table for 1 first-round pick, or, here, let's think about this, guys. If you could make the trade for Mozgov or for Brandon Wright with both conceding 2 first-round picks, who would you rather have? Johnny, go ahead.
I would say Mozgov, just because he's a true center and he's going to provide that rim protection. Brandon Wright's, he's known for shooting a great percentage and playing hard and everything. But I feel Mozgov, with his center presence and the rim protection he provides, I think that Mozgov is the upgrade over Wright. But it's close. It's close. But I just prefer the true center in this case, I guess.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Johnny, to be honest. Just because we're the Cavs, and that Mozgov is definitely a center. He's a big dude. But as far as like ceilings and stuff, Jeff Green is a way more exciting player. And I guess the difference is Mozgov was 2 picks and Brandon Wright was 1. So 2 picks is a lot for Mozgov, but 1 pick for Brandon Wright, I think that's a solid deal. So yeah.
Okay. Cool. I'm still not sure on that. We'll have to see how it plays out.
We'll see what happens.
If we could have gotten Brandon Wright for 1 first-round pick, I'll be pretty salty about that for a little while until Mozgov proves me wrong.
There you go.
So looking, I guess, further also down the road, and we're a decent chunk into the season so far. Looking at each conference and then the league as a whole, mainly the league as a whole, I should say, who would you guys put in the MVP race right now. How many players? Throw some names out there. Johnny, if you'd like to go ahead and start.
Yeah, sure. So, going into this season, with our NBA preview we did and everything, we pretty much narrowed it down to LeBron and KD. And, with the circumstances that have played out throughout this season, you obviously had, KD with that injury, and that's kind of knocked him out of the, the MVP contention, at least for now. And then with LeBron, he's missed some time with Cleveland, as well as his numbers aren't as great. So it kind of opens up the MVP race in my mind. I think you have teams that are really achieving at a high rate. So I look at Steph Curry in Golden State as one of the leading contenders. Him along with Klay Thompson. That backcourt has just been very dynamic and has led to their incredible 28-5 start. So I look at Steph Curry, and then I also look at LaMarcus Aldridge in Portland. Portland is off to a great start. Once again, just like last year, they're the 2 seed in the West, I believe. So he's just become an absolute force within the West and within the NBA, really. And he's averaging 23 points a game. He's averaging 11 rebounds. So I look at him as another possibility. And then I guess going into Memphis too, with a healthy Marc Gasol. Last year the Grizzlies with him, in the last half of the year they had, I think, either the best or the second best record, and it shows now with him in the lineup that they're really a force to be reckoned with. So I look at Marc Gasol as a possible one. And then you also look, further within the West, I suppose, at James Harden of the Rockets, and he is he's just led that team to kind of a surprise start in my mind. I know, Kurt, that you thought that the Rockets perhaps would miss the playoffs, but not on Harden's watch. He's just doing everything for the Rockets. He leads the league in points per game, and he gets to the rim so easily and gets to the line very frequently. So he's making Dwight Howard a better player, and all the guys they've gotten, it's just a better team all around. So I look at Harden as well, and then there's 4 guys for you that are I think definite guys, and then I also look at a few borderline guys in the East that have kind of emerged in the point guards of Kyle Lowry and Jeff Teague. Lowry for the Raptors is their leader, and he's really played well. He's averaging close to 21 points a game and 8 assists. So, and they're also sitting in that second spot in the Eastern Conference. So and you also have DeMar DeRozan out, so he's really led their team. And some people may have thought that the Raptors may have, maybe last year was a fluke or something, but he's really led their team into contention, and the Raptors are for real. So I look at him along with Teague, who Hawks recently have moved into that 1 seed, and he's definitely been a part of that, and he's also actually been, I feel, has been snubbed from the All-Star voting just because he's kind of a low-profile guy, but you look at his stats and what he's brought to their team and his development in this year, and I feel he's worth consideration. So I guess looking at it, there's 4 guys in the West I feel are very serious contenders. I don't really give a favorite. I guess Curry and Harden are my favorites at the moment, but also those 2 guys in the East I look at. So, Rahul, what do you think about these MVP candidates so far?
Yeah, I'll keep it quick because I think you threw out most of the names I was thinking of, you mentioned, and I know we were talking about this earlier. A lot of these names are getting thrown out there because of LeBron not being, healthy, and then Kevin Durant not being healthy. That opens up a lot of opportunities. I guess the two ways I think of the MVP voting is, one, you got to look at the team's record, and that's why you have guys like Steph Curry and Marc Gasol. They're leading their teams, and their teams are doing great. So there's that. And, yeah, that's why I also would say Jeff Teague should get a little more serious consideration. I don't think he's really going to. But, he should be a serious MVP candidate. He's averaging about 18 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists on a first-place team. So there's that. And the other way I think you can look at the MVP is if you were to replace, this player with a completely average player, where would the biggest difference be? So that's where I think you have to look at guys like James Harden. If you replace James Harden with an average NBA 2 guard, then Houston would be in a lot of trouble. And I think Anthony Davis was kind of all the talk at the beginning of the season, and that's died down a little bit. But even if you take Anthony Davis and replace him with a completely average NBA player, the Pelicans, we would forget they were an NBA team. No one would talk about them at all. So I think Anthony Davis should be considered. You mentioned Jimmy Butler, right? I don't know if you did, but
no, not actually. But he's a contender as well, I see.
Yeah. So Jimmy Butler, I guess, is the only name I would add to that, especially with Derrick Rose, sitting and sometimes playing, sometimes not playing, kind of doing whatever the hell he wants. I think Jimmy Butler's got to be considered a pretty strong MVP candidate. Obviously, Chicago is doing pretty well, and Butler's numbers are huge. They're 22 points a game, 6 boards a game, and I think 3 or 4 assists a game as well. So, I don't know. Anything you want to add to that, Kurt?
Yeah. Once you guys started rattling off players, I didn't think I'd have a chance of getting this guy's name in, but there's one other player I'd like to add to the consideration.
Wait, let me guess. Is it Gary Neal? Is it Gary Neal?
No, I wish. He's he's doing his best to carry the Hornets, but there's a pretty big wasp nest weighing that team down right now, and pretty sure Gary's allergic, so it's not looking really good there. But no, actually, I'm kind of surprised. I was just watching them play today, which is why I thought of it. A guy that's, barely older than we are, but John Wall is having a pretty solid season for the Wizards, who are currently in second place in the East, 25-11, which would even be good enough for 5th in the West. He's putting about 17 points per game. He's leading the league in assists, I believe. 10.3 assists per game. It's pretty impressive.
Wow.
Shooting about 46% from the field. Still can't hit the 3, but that's okay. That's what he's got his partner in crime, Bradley Beal, for. He's also putting up ridiculous 2.1 steals per game. His turnovers are a little high, but he's definitely the engine that makes that team go, and he's their leader, and not only in running the offense, but emotionally, everyone kind of follows his lead, and he can really get the team fired up. So if you take him off that team, they would be struggling too, and even in a weak East, which is why I think that this year it seems like a point guard is destined to win MVP unless KD goes zonkers or LeBron comes back and the Cavs win 20 in a row or something like that. It'll be a nice change of pace to see, that our predictions were, granted there were injuries that got in the way so far, but it's just refreshing to see that the MVP picture is opening up to more than just 2 or maybe 3 players. Chris Paul's usually in there for the beginning of the season, and then that kind of dies down and it gets serious between KD and LeBron, or LeBron and somebody else. So it'll be interesting for sure. there are a lot of good candidates, and probably some that we mentioned that aren't getting any recognition that deserve it. So
there you go. So let's move from talking about these players to talking about some of these teams. With all the trades that are going on, can you guys think of like any teams that maybe still need to make a trade? And if so, I guess what position do they need to trade for? J-Rod, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little tough looking at it. The top teams, you look at what teams need to make a trade, and you pretty much narrow it down to, like, the teams that you think are going to be in contention or, seriously need to make a trade. So, I mean, I look at the West, and Golden State seems pretty set with their rotation and everything. I think that the Clippers in the 6th seed, I think they need to make a move, maybe for a three guard possibly. I'm not sure who's the answer there. Maybe, I don't know, if I think Luol Deng was kind of floated around for the Memphis trade. I'm not sure if he's, a big upgrade or anything, but I feel the Clippers need to do something. I just don't see them, contending for a championship with the roster they have right now. I mean, they're solid. They're solid with, Jordan and Hawes at the center position, and then, maybe a power forward backup too, maybe another big man, because, I mean, Glenn Davis is kind of old and washed up and stuff. But, you look at Matt Barnes as their starting 3 guard right now, and he actually had, like, a horrible preseason. He was looking really bad, but he's actually been playing really well of late. So, I mean, he's okay. I don't really see him as a starting 3 guard on, like, a title team, though. So I feel like they could make an upgrade at the 3 position if someone would be available. I think that's a move that I feel they could make and make their team better. So I look at the Clippers as a potential team for that. Kurt, do you have any ideas as far as any other teams that, what position maybe or certain guys that they can target for acquiring before the trade deadline?
Yeah, I think the New York Knicks, there are several moves they could make there. They could try gutting their whole roster. No, but actually, yeah, I'm looking at the West as well. Golden State, like you said, pretty solid. Dallas obviously made the Rondo move. Houston picks up Josh Smith, Corey Brewer. Like, they have an unbelievably deep a set of wings. And then obviously, they could maybe use a backup point guard behind Beverly, who's solid, but honestly, like, from that position with the players they have, they don't need that person to provide any offense. Just needs to be a pest on defense. But the team that I think most in the West needs to make a move, which might sound weird, is Portland. They're currently tied for second best in the NBA with a 28-8 record, which, is fine and dandy for the regular season. But when you look at their roster, there isn't a whole lot of depth there. Obviously they have Lillard and Aldridge leading them up top, and Wesley Matthews, Nicholas Batum, and then Robin Lopez as their starters. Chris Kaman is a pretty solid backup center to have, and Steve Blake is he's an above-average backup point guard. But looking past those few players, there's just not a whole lot I see on their team that is actually contributing, a whole lot. So if there's any way that they could get a backup wing, I think that's something they should try to do. They have Alan Crabb right now, who exactly,
former Cavalier.
Yeah.
He's boasting a nice 9.1 PER. Really not having too great of a season, which isn't terribly surprising, I guess. And their only other wing is Darrell Wright, who, hasn't even averaged 10 minutes per game, shooting 37%. Alan Crabb shooting 42%. But I think that's a position that, like, Nicholas Batum is a very, very solid player. And you look at four of their starting five, and they're averaging 34-plus minutes per game, with the exception being Lopez because Chris Kamen's such a solid backup. They might be fine for the regular season, and they probably will still earn home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs. But, at what point is, that's in the Western Conference, maybe that's good enough. I don't know. I don't know how their management's run, but the roster they have right now is not going to win them the conference, and they're definitely not going to win a championship with it because there's too many minutes to go around for not enough players. Rahul, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I was gonna talk about the Clippers as well. That Jared, I guess, already talked about. But yeah, I agree with the fact that they needed a three, like with Matt Barnes' struggles, and I'm kind of surprised that they didn't sign Paul Pierce. I really thought they were going to sign Paul Pierce in the offseason, especially with Doc Rivers being the coach and the GM and the president and the czar or whatever he calls himself nowadays. But so I was waiting for that to happen, but it never happened. As far as the East, the one thing I thought of, if you look at Toronto, they're sitting right now at the 3 seed.
You thinking they're bigs?
Yeah. So if you think about Toronto, first of all, do you guys think that they're the favorite or they're ever going to be the favorite with what they have right now? I just think they're always going to be one of those teams that could do it, that could make the finals, but probably not. That's how I look at Toronto. And I think I'm looking at their bigs, and I'm thinking they need like a different power forward. I think Amir Johnson's a good player, but I think he's best suited to come off the bench. He averages something like, I don't know, I think like 9 points, 5 or 6 boards, and it's not bad. But like if you look at the other teams in the East that they would potentially go up against, we always talk about Chicago and their bigs. If you think about Washington and with Nene and Gortat, there's some good tandems out there. So I'm not exactly sure who they go after. I think like David West could be a good name. I don't know if that would happen or not, but I think it's something they should look into. But yeah, they could use some more front court depth for sure.
Yeah.
So okay. I think that's pretty good on trades. Quick look at the seeding right now. What do you think? Anything going to change? Anything drastic in the next few weeks as far as where teams are seated right now?
I see in the East, just looking at the East, and you obviously have Detroit, who after that Josh Smith trade has been a real surprise. They're 7-0, and they just beat the Spurs.
They lost tonight.
Oh, they did. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. They're still only, 3 games back from the 8 seed. So I think they could possibly sneak up into the playoff contention in that 8 seed. Miami hasn't looked great. They're 3-7 in the last 10, and they're kind of, faltering. They're 15-21 now. And I see Milwaukee and Brooklyn kind of staying at that 6 or 7 seed. As far as the rest of the East, I see Chicago as emerging as the 1 seed at the end of the year, I feel. But I think Atlanta is going to be in the top 4 somewhere, I feel. I just think they're legit, and they've beaten a lot of good Western teams, and they're just playing really well right now, and I think they'll keep that up to an extent. I think maybe Toronto moves down a little, and hopefully Cleveland moves up in a 3 or 4 seed. We'll see.
Yeah.
So I think the top 5 in the East can fluctuate a little bit. Looking at the West, it's kind of it's tough to say. I think it's kind of a crapshoot as to how this will play out, but I see San Antonio moving up from the 7th seed, obviously. I don't think they'll continue to, I guess some people call it struggling, but I just kind of think they're finding their way and feeling out what their best lineups are and such. So I feel the Clippers might slip a little bit, and OKC, they're kind of up and down right now, but I feel once they find their groove, they're going to come back up into that 8th seed at least, and potentially I think up to maybe the 6th seed, maybe the 5. We'll see how these other teams kind of fare, and as more Western teams, play within their division and everything. I don't know if Golden State will keep up their, ridiculous start or anything, but, I mean, they look really good right now, so it's hard to say otherwise, especially at home where they're 15-1. So, yeah, the West is very interesting. It's, it's all obviously only 30-some games in, but you get a feel for, the 8 playoff teams. It's just a matter of, where they'll fall. So, Kurt, what do you think about, how you see the top 8 playing out in, the East as well as the West?
Well, I agree with you. I think unless, there's some serious injury troubles, which Chicago is known for, I think they definitely will emerge as the 1 seed just over the course of the season. They're so deep and so talented. Though Atlanta, it is funny because at the beginning of the season, people were kind of just, writing them off, and they've beat pretty much everybody, and on the road too. So I think Chicago and Atlanta will end up as the top 2 in interchangeable order. Washington's definitely going to be up there too. I see Toronto falling as well with DeRozan being out. They're 5-5 in their last 10. They've actually lost 4 in a row. Cleveland, yeah. Luckily, like Rahul said earlier, we're in the East. I don't think we're going to break the top. If we break the top 4, I think we'll be 4th. It's going to take a little time to see how this new group of players fits in with LeBron back too. But we're already 5.5 games back out of the 4 spot. We're 36 games in, so that's a decent amount of ground to make up already. Miami, Miami and Brooklyn are both looking pretty bad, and I would not be surprised if one of them, or maybe even both, don't make the playoffs. Charlotte, hanging in there. They won 4 in a row. They're only 2 games back of the 8th seed. And like you said, Detroit's been hot. And, with those 2 teams being below 500 for the 7 and 8th seed, there are actually 5 teams that could earn those 2 spots. Or 7 teams fighting for the 2 spots. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And I don't think Boston's going to play for the playoffs anymore. They're going to make sure that they go into full tank mode. Try to count them out, but even a team like Orlando, you just never know. As far as the West, I think Golden State, it's tough. They're the top 6 teams are within 5.5 games of each other. I could definitely see Golden State or Houston or Dallas or Memphis or even San Antonio winning the West. I see Portland dropping. I think just like last year, they're really solid 5 to 7 players deep. But as you saw last year, players get tired throughout the season of 82 games. So I don't think that there's in the next 36 games. I think there's no way that they go 28-8. So I think they'll probably drop down to maybe like a 5 or 6 seed. The Clippers, I don't know what's going on with that team, man. Like, Chris Paul's supposed to be the best point guard in the league, and sure, they're 24-12. That's pretty good, but they just seem like they can't get over the hump. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if they fell out of the playoffs, or maybe like for hovering in there on the 8th seed, because I do think Oklahoma City, they're going to make the playoffs, and it's a matter of San Antonio's not. There's no way they don't make it. There's just no. I mean, they've been struggling without Kawhi, but and if a team's going to get kicked out, you'd say Phoenix, but they're 8-2 in their last 10. Memphis and San Antonio are the ones that have been struggling in the playoff race right now. And Denver is even making a run too. They're 5 right now, but they're a good team. They're 2 years removed from being a 3 seed, I think, with pretty much the same roster. Last year they were all hurt. So, yeah, if I was in the Western Conference, it'd be hard to sleep at night because they're really, I don't think New Orleans is going to vie for a playoff spot, but I think there are really 10 teams fighting for 8 spots. And then in the East, I think there are 7 teams fighting for 2 spots, but pretty much 6 because I think Boston's going to tank now. So yeah, that's my take on that. Rahul, what do you think?
I'm pretty sure New York's gonna propel up to like the 4 seed. They're just gonna rattle off 20 in a row.
They could still do it.
In the East, what are they? They're 11 and a half back. That's not crazy. It's possible. Carmelo comes back. As far as the East, I think the top 7 are set. Not set, but I think they have a really good shot at making it. And I don't know if Miami's going to make the playoffs anymore, and I feel kind of stupid about that because at the beginning of the season I was talking about how they would have home court advantage in the first round, but I lost a couple bets, so I'm going to have to pay the chicken nuggets on that one. But so yeah, I would say I think even Indiana could sneak in there, which is crazy because if you compare their talent to like New York's talent, couldn't you really say that Indiana has really that much more talent than New York?
Not healthy talent.
Yeah, not healthy, exactly, yeah. Their leading scorer doesn't start. It's TJ Miles scores 12 points for them.
Yeah. Wow.
Somehow they're at 15 and 23. So I think Vogel is doing a good job with Indiana, and I think they could actually sneak into the 8th spot. And then in the West, I'm going to say something that's maybe kind of crazy, but I don't know if San Antonio makes the playoffs.
Wow.
They're in the 7th spot right now. You got Oklahoma City that's going to be charging real soon, and you have Phoenix that's playing real well. And then San Antonio's I think they're 4-6 in their last 10 games.
Yep.
And Kawhi Leonard's out for another 2 or 3 weeks, I think. So, it's far different from the previous years when they would sit players because they could. They're still going to sit guys like Duncan and Parker and Ginobili, but now they don't have that breathing room, so it's a little uncomfortable. And I think in the end, it's really possible that San Antonio doesn't make the playoffs. So I'm sure we'll listen to this podcast in like 2 months, and everybody.
Yeah, they'll be on like a 13-game winning streak.
Yeah. Dude, I remember when I said we should trade Dion like a month before it happened, and then he like rattled off 4 huge games. So
that's because he's listening.
Yeah, Dion's actually a big fan of the podcast. He still listens, even though he's in Oklahoma City right now. So.
Hey, he had a big game. He kind of sealed the deal for them against Utah. He had a big 3 to put them up 4 in the final seconds. So.
Oh, no kidding.
Good to see that he used all that talent for us.
For good. Yeah. Yeah, who knows? That could be the end of Reggie Jackson in Oklahoma City if Dion plays well. So it's important.
Yeah.
It's like So all right. Yeah. Anything else you guys want to talk about today?
Yeah, just real quick.
Yeah.
You mentioned Indiana sneaking in. Now, how interesting would that be to see, role reversal from last year, where Indiana's a huge favorite playing against Atlanta is the 1 versus 8. And that seems that could be a big switcheroo there. And I know Indiana, they're not offensively gifted, but that's just a tough, gritty team that you don't really want to see. It's a team you'd rather avoid if possible, because they're not going to give up, and they're just there's a certain aspect to the psyche, I think, where Atlanta lost a heartbreaking series last year, and there'll be the revenge factor. But at the same point, if it goes to a Game 7 and things start getting tight, like Indiana's not the team that's going to fold. It's going to be Atlanta because they haven't been there, haven't done that before. So I think that would be awesome if that was a series matchup.
Yeah, that Indiana has a culture about it. They have kind of a winning culture, and I would not want to play guys like David West in the playoffs. And the other thing, if it goes to a Game 7, if I was Atlanta, I would be terrified that Paul George is just going to suddenly show up. Because, but seriously, though, the playoffs is around the time where he could start to return. So if Indiana's hanging around at the end of the season, I would start to think that maybe Paul George sees this and is going to try to make a comeback in the playoffs. So, as weird as it seems, don't count out Indiana.
Yeah, definitely a good point. So do you guys think that Charlotte has any chance of sneaking back in or sneaking into 7 or 8, or do you think that they're just on a little run right now against them? I don't know exactly who they've played in their last 4 games, but I'm going to assume that they've played a couple of pretty bad teams in that span. Well, actually, they just beat the Raptors. Yeah, they just
they just beat the Raptors by 8.
2 wins are good. Yeah, in Toronto they won, and they beat New Orleans at home. And 2 before that, Boston and Orlando. They got the Knicks coming up, so that's really good.
Yeah.
I like to think that they can still make a run at it. Definitely not in the. I think maybe I had them in the 6th seed, and that seems pretty unlikely that they'll. Well, you never know. I don't know. There's a lot of season left, so it'd be a shame to see a team that talented not get a shot to get some experience in the playoffs after a pretty short exit last season. So.
What I'd like to see is Lance Stevenson traded back to Indiana.
It's been floated around a little, actually.
What's that? Yeah, I think so.
Wow, I wonder if has that ever happened before? Guy signs with another team that and doesn't take the offer from his previous team and then gets traded back anyway. That's that sounds like a pretty rare event. Huh.
Well, if it was going to happen, it would be with Lance Stevenson. So
that's true. He is certainly a character.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any other topics you guys want to cover real quick, or?
No, that's all I got. J-Rod, you got anything?
No, I think that should be it. I guess just looking forward on our site, what do we have coming up? I know we have NBA Jam.
Yeah, we got a little bit delayed with all the trades and stuff, but NBA Jam, it might even be up before this podcast goes up, so check it out.
Mm-hmm.
What else do we have? We might do some Ohio State coverage for the big game.
Yeah.
What that's all about.
We got the preview coming up on Sunday as usual, so you can look forward to checking out some of the highlight games for the upcoming week, as well as our favorite Ricky Rubio shooting award and the various other awards that we are so generous in giving out to our favorite NBA players.
And our generous sponsors, of course.
All right. Okay. I think we need to get some chicken nuggets and call it a day.
Yeah, all right. Before we
Yeah,
leave,
good stuff.
go Cavs. Try not to make it embarrassing against the Warriors, and most importantly, go Buckeyes. We'll be rooting for you guys. So bring home the hard work.
Yeah.
We are
Sounds
currently
good. Go
tied
Bucks.
with the Warriors. It is 33-33 Cavs Warriors. J.R. Smith is off to a nice start with 12 points, and Mozgov has made his debut with the Cavaliers. So, yeah, I'll probably be watching the rest of that game and see how we continue to play against the best team in NBA. So,
yeah, it's exciting stuff. All right.
Sounds good. All right. Talk to you guys soon.